it's Jean from Inky Owl Studio. Welcome to part 2 of the Stamperia Forest file folder folio, and it's a tutorial, and I will link down below part 1 in case you missed that. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe so that you can pick up on part 3 and 4. So today we're going to be focusing on this section of the file folder, the waterfall and the pocket. And you will need to cut 5 pieces of cardstock that is 4 3/4 by 4 1/4. And then you'll need to put a score line a 1/2 inch down on the 4 1/4. Well, okay. This is always hard for me to explain. If you're using a scoreboard, you will lay your section down so that it's at the 4 1/4 along that side, and you'll put a 1/2 inch score line in. So in the end, you have 4 3/4 by 3 3/4. So that's how you put the score line in. If you're doing this with a ruler, then you can use this as a visual to see where to put that score line. So now you've got these 5 pieces done. You will need another piece that is 4 3/4 by 3 inches. Let me check and make sure that's 3 inches. Oh, yes, 3 inches this way and 4 3/4. What this is going to do is this is going to be the base for gluing on the flaps. And we simply, oh, and then there's one thing else I like to do, and I forgot to do that previously, and that is I like to miter these little corners. And then of course you have to decide, do you want to round the corners on the bottom or not? I also want to point out that I am using a light colored cardstock that matches the file folder for this, because I don't know if the recipient might be writing on here or not, or just simply putting in photographs. I just wasn't sure, so I wanted it to be a light color. But you could, if you knew what you were going to put there on the back side, if you were just going to be gluing in photographs, you could use your colored cardstock, whatever that alternative color that you chose for your file folder. In the beginning, you can go ahead and use that. It would make a nice border for your paper that you're going to put down here eventually. But I just am going to be using this shade here. So you've got those 2 choices. It's going to take about 2 8.5 by 11 sheets to make the waterfall. You'll have some left over, but you'll need the 2 sheets. Alright, so once we have that done, then I'm going to just glue this in. And when I do, I am going to align it to the top of that square that we cut, like so. All right, so it's glued on here. Okay. And then I'm going to take the second piece, and I am going to glue this right up at the bottom of the last flap, but always check to see that you're aligning them correctly. Okay, because sometimes it's easy to get them out of alignment. All right, glitter glue is great, but it gives you no wiggle time. So probably a glue that doesn't dry quite as quickly might be easier to work with. All right, there we go. And just put in all 5 pieces. that. Now don't worry about that if you're off a little bit, as long as the flaps are straight this way, you'll be fine, because there will be some variance in the score line and everything. So just as long as the rest of it seems to be in place, you're fine that way. Then we're going to come over here and we're going to just cut that off. Well, no, actually, let's not cut that off. You don't need to cut it off. No, you don't need to cut it off. So we're just going to work with it that way. We're going to come back in with little strips of paper and glue in between the flaps some decorative paper in there. So now you have your waterfall done, and you can put your decorative paper on now. So there's a page that has 6 large journaling cards about this size. I think they're 3.5 by 5.5. They're large and they fill the whole page. That is the and these are the animals that I am putting on the waterfall. And you only need 5, and the fish was not my favorite, although I'll use it somewhere else, but just wasn't my favorite, so that one I'm not using. Cut off the brown border, cut them all out and cut the brown border off. Then you'll just be going over to your waterfall, kind of aligning up so that it sits just a hair within that flap, and you'll mark where you want to cut it off. Okay, sometimes the animals are more on the right, sometimes they were on the left, but it's your preference how you'd like it to be set up. And then once you do that, and if you are rounding out your corners, you'll need to round out, well, I don't know where I placed my rounder. Anyways, you'll need to round out the corner down here, like that, and ink around them. Now, choose which one you want to be on top. Okay, they're all lovely and they're all great. I did not choose the fox because the fox is going to be, a larger fox is going to be in one of the pockets. And I chose the hedgehog because I just think it's so cute. I'm a little partial to them anyways. So that is going to be my first animal. Do not glue him in yet. Glue the other ones in, that's fine. You can do that. Although I am not going to glue them in right now because I am going to show you how to do other things, but you can glue these in now or later. So we're going to be working with him, so we do not want to glue him in quite yet. Now we're going to put in, well, let's go make our buttons. I guess it doesn't really matter the order here at this point. Let's make the buttons. We're going to need 4 buttons. 4 of these little button guys here. And I used a punch for the middle on all of these, but if you don't have a small hole punch, because this is a teeny tiny hole punch, not everybody has, a size like that, you can use the awl. I have a 3/4 of an inch hole punch, but you can probably use a 1/2 inch, 7/8 of an inch, something like that, whatever small round one you have. So if you're using the awl or even a hole punch, make your hole first, and then take the circle punch and line it up in the middle and cut it out. Now if you're using the awl, you're going to have this little bit of paper kind of peeling back, so I just merely fold it back a little bit. Now I'm using 2 layers, so this is the cardstock that I'm trimming the folio in, and the other layer is going to be a piece of the file folder scrap, because we want these to be really heavy duty. Okay, and I'm going to glue this guy on top of this one, like so, just like that. And now you can finish making that hole, and don't poke yourself, but you can finish making that hole that way, and just go around, and you'll want to ink around the side to get rid of that light colored, if you're using a light colored file folder. Okay, so there's your buttons. Okay, you'll need 4 of those. So one of these buttons, and you need to put 3 of them to the side. This button here is going to go on top of this, of the whatever you chose for the top. That's where the first button is going to go. And I am going to okay, I could probably get a ruler and measure that. Maybe that's what I should do, is measure that with a ruler. And instead of eyeing it up, although eyeing it up usually works okay. And oh, I was really super close. So I'm putting this in about, just a hair above the paper itself, but, really close to that border is good. What I like to do is take my cording that I'm going to use to close this up with, string or cording, whatever it is that you chose. And again, I have this hemp cord that you find in the jewelry department. And I'm going to take out probably a good 18 inches, it looks about. It's more than enough. And I'm going to put it through that little hole, whatever your cording is, put it in through that hole. All right, and then I'm going to tape this. So I taped this down, and now I'm going to put my brad through there. Again, there. That way, we don't have to tie it around the brad. It just makes it not quite so bulky in that area. And then we'll put the legs down. These are tiny brads, and they're probably tinier than they, if they were a little bit longer legs, it'd be a lot better. So I'm going to tape that brad down as well. Okay. All right, so that is finished. Now, this can be glued here on to the top. A lot of little steps. Okay. Excellent, excellent. All right. He is all done. Now we're going to make the rest of it down here, and we're going to put in a pocket. So for the bottom part, I chose this eagle, and my goal is to try to get every animal that I can in here to be represented. And so I've chosen this. Now you may like this area, or you may like the one down here. I don't know, it's really kind of up to you, or you may want one of the other pattern papers. It is fine, it doesn't really matter. This needs to be 4 3/4 wide, or as wide as your, as wide as your waterfall is here, and then it needs to be 6 inches down. But what I would recommend doing is cutting it maybe 6.5 inches, just so you have a little extra. It's always nice to have extra rather than to cut it too short. All right, I've cut it 4 3/4 wide and a little over 6 inches long. And I am going to kind of eye this up. So I'm going to place this about where I want it to be, or where I do want it to be. And it fits very snugly in between these two score lines. All right, it's going to be a snug fit. And this is basically where the waterfall is going to be. And then I'm going to align this over here like so. And figure out that I'm going to cut it off right about there. So I just eye it up to where I want to cut that off. You'll just have to fussy cut it to where you like to have it. All right. And I think that's going to work out good. Yeah, that's going to work out just fine. So you have your piece. That's going to be the bottom pocket there. Now you'll need to cut another piece. That is, another piece needs to be cut out of cardstock, and it's 1 inch by 4 3/4 inch. So we're going to need this so that we can make the slit pocket that's going to go inside. Once you cut that, we're going to find the middle of that little piece, and right at a 1/2 inch we're going to mark it so that we have the middle on both sides. Well, you know, it'll probably be easier to see if I do it on this side. Alright, and let's just do that, and then I'm going to put a line right here. Now it doesn't matter that you can see this line because it's going to be hidden. So we have our line here. We're going to come in a 1/2 inch on each side of that line. Put our little dot in there. Like so. Alright. So I've gone in a 1/2 inch and I put in my dots. Now I'm going to need a hole punch, and again, if you don't have a hole punch, you can use your awl. But I'm going to put in, and this is I believe, 1/8 inch hole punch. I'm going to try and punch that hole in the middle of that line the best I can. Like that. Okay. Now I'm going to turn this to the back side, and I'm going to glue this onto the back. And I want it to be far enough, let me give you a visual here. I want it to be far enough down from this waterfall that I can easily put a tag in and out, and some of the tag stick up. So that's about, and I'm going to eye this up to about 1.5 inches from the top is about where this is going. So we're going to glue this into the back here. And I'm gluing the wrong side. I'm sorry. It needs to glue this. We need to see that side because we're going to be making our cuts. Oh, goodness, goodness, goodness. I'm getting ahead of myself here. All right. So it's in the middle, about 1.5 inches from the top. So that is our approximate place. If you want to, you can measure that. Of course, now is a bad time to measure it, isn't it, Jane? Oh, yes, it is. But again, the crafting graces are with you. All right. So there you go. That's in there. Now we're going to cut this. And we're going to need our craft knife and our ruler. And we're going to cut this like just about 1/8 of an inch to the left and 1/8 of an inch to the right, just a hair. And I'm kind of using the holes as my guide. I don't want to cut past the holes. I want to include them in the cut. So it's just a little bit. And the hole kind of helps you stop, right? It helps to see where to start, and it kind of helps you to know when to stop. And there we go. Make sure I got my... And we're going to do it here on this side as well. All right, again, I don't want to cut past my hole. I want to include it in my cut. There we go. Sort of like at the bottom and top of it. And we're going to go down here like that. Cutting through layers. I want to make sure I get my layers cut there. Yay! And then you'll snip off. You'll just snip those off like that. Okay. Just like that. There we go. Now on, you can either, leave it this way, or you can punch holes in there again. So just punch over that hole again that you previously made it. You can do that. Probably could have done that before you went to cut. If you wanted to kind of have a little divot there on each side. And so now you have your little slit pocket there. And I would even say I could have really even made a smaller slit. But you never know. You never know what kind of a tag you may want to put in there. It may be kind of thick and maybe it has some bulk to it, and that's always true too. So I'm just going to quickly go around here. All right, and let me get my waterfall. Now we're going to glue this at the bottom of our waterfall here, just like that. And let's see, where did my glue go? Here she is. We're going to glue that in there. Okay, and I want to make sure it's straight. Looks pretty straight there. Okay. All right. Okay. So just want to make sure it all lines up straight on the edges. And now you have your pocket in there. And you are now ready to glue this into your file folder. Now, one thing that I did forget on part one was that I like to reinforce my spines. And you can use masking tape. Masking tape is good, but you can also use like bandage tape. This is Johnson & Johnson bandage tape. You can buy to put bandages on. This will have to be glued because it's not super sticky. It's meant to be on your skin. But this is great. It's great and flexible, and it inks up pretty well. You can use that. You can, if you have a Tyvek envelope, you can glue that in. So something to kind of like reinforce those spines. So now when you go to glue this in, This is we want to make sure that this part down here is a pocket. So from the bottom of the slit, we are just going to glue along the edges, the 3 edges here, to form our pocket. All right. Above the split, we want to glue it pretty close to the edge there on the top one to kind of keep it down. And then we can just go ahead and glue in the rest. And now it's ready. Now make sure that you know where your spine begins and ends. Check out the spines here, and there's a spine right there, and this is going to be very snug in between those 2 spines, but it will fit, and it's pretty close to the top. And here's the bottom, so you want to make sure that it's all good to go. It is. Like I say, glitter glue is a great glue, but it does dry pretty fast, and if you're not, it might just be better to make this with like either a Fabri-Tac or a glue that doesn't dry so quickly, if this is your first time making it. So there you go. All right, so that'll be it for today. We will go ahead and add the button and do other things next time. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, and you have a great and crafty day. Bye.